Good evening. We are back with Moksha Talks episode 3. We began in October with the festivity at its peak during Durga Puja. Then in November, Ma Kali decided to take over and we talked about Shaktism. Now in December, it's like a countdown to Christmas, which is perhaps one of the biggest festivals celebrated all over the world. We are, of course, looking at myth, magic, and mystery, and all of that makes Christmas history. In conversation with Kushal Andrew Biswas, who is an associate professor and the head of the Department of English Women's Christian College. His extracurricular interests are focused mainly on music-related activities. He was been a part-time radio broadcaster, a newspaper columnist, and a quiz enthusiast. For me, he's a very, very close friend's cousin. So I didn't even realize that until I actually had a Zoom meeting with him. So I was quite prepared to meet an outsider, but then it turned out that he was someone I knew very well. So thank you, Kushal, for agreeing to do this for us. And I welcome you to Moksha Talks.
Oh, thanks a lot, and thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm really delighted to have you here.
Terrific.
Okay, so it's the season to be jolly. It's a time for red and green. It's the time for cake and gifts. It's also the time for decoration, for celebration, a time for hope, joy, peace, gratitude, cheer, togetherness, family. The list is very long. Yes, Christmas is a time for giving, but it is simply not a day when we exchange gifts. And I think it is very, very important that the younger generation gets this message because in a world which is getting increasingly more materialistic, I think it is very important to be selfless, to learn to give instead of expect to get. And I think it is also a very good time to take a stock of yourself and try and be a better version of who you are. So it's a beautiful time of the year, anywhere you go. I have been fortunate. I have spent one Christmas in North America. I have seen White Christmas. I have seen the decorations. I've seen the love and the happiness that kind of exudes from even malls and streets, and the houses are so beautifully decorated. And the contrast between the stark white of the snow and the beautiful colors that you see all around and the lights that you see all around, there is something that just uplifts you. It's a beautiful feeling. We will begin with some very commonly associated words with Christmas. And I think Kushal would like to talk about a couple of them, or maybe not even some of them which are not even on our list. So just to give you a rough idea, bells, candy cane, caroling, chimney, Christmas, Christmas tree, elf. The list is long. You all know about it, but I'm handing it over to Kushal to take you through this.
Thanks so much. I like this idea of a list of Christmassy titles and words. What I like even better is your very picturesque putting together of the Christmas scene, because like these words, that Christmas scene also has, I think, a couple of elements that we are all familiar with, and a couple of elements that really don't belong to most of our, let's say, imaginations. I'm talking about, say, the snow that you spoke about. Every time we look at a Christmas picture of Christmas being celebrated outside, there's a lot of snow. It adds to the beauty. I wonder how many of us have actually experienced a snowy winter here. Possibly most of us haven't. On the other hand...
but we've used cotton wool to decorate our Christmas trees.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
From the time we
We've
were
done
small.
that. And interesting thing is, of course, that like so much about Christmas celebrations the world over, that would possibly have been something imposed on the original Christmas event. Because if you take a look at Christmas in the Middle East, I can't imagine any snow anywhere there. And yes, but in the mid, no snow there either. So a lot of these sort of additions are things that we are not familiar with, but over the years we've come to accept them as very, very Christmassy. So with this list that you've given me, for example, yes, bells, very much something associated with Christmas. Candy cane, I'm not so certain that it's very Christmassy, and so the list goes on. Elf, yeah, we've read about them, heard about them. In an Indian context, I don't see how Christmassy they are, but of course, yeah, Christmas, family, Mary, Santa Claus, reindeer, all of these are parts of everybody's Christmas. We sing about them, we read about them. I'd just like to mention two things, maybe, that we could start with. One taken from this list here, and the other not taken from the list, but I think a good starting point. So, the one that I'd like to begin with from this list is the word Christmas or Christmas Eve itself. Why I would choose to do that is, again, it's an interesting part of how a particular narrative is has become familiar to us. But maybe this narrative doesn't actually have anything to do with the original Christmas story as far as we know. The two words, Christ and Mass, which came together to give us this word, would actually, I think, come a lot later than the actual event. Also, it's the word Christ and the word Mass would possibly not be familiar to the little circle in Bethlehem where the first Christmas was celebrated, right? That is one. The other thing I've been thinking about from an Indian point of view is, if we accept the fact that Saint Thomas the Apostle came to India in the 2nd century, there must have been some kind of
45.
Sorry, the first century. Yes,
almost after
Christ died,
He
of
was
course.
sent
Yes,
to
yes.
India.
Stupid me with my stupid sense of time frames. But yes, the point is that so there must have been some kind of celebration. But most of I would love to know how people in the South have celebrated, or whether in fact there are traditions of celebrations. But of course, most of us are familiar with the shall we say the European
Concept.
kind of Christmas. So
Celebration.
almost everything that we think of
Yeah.
has to do with that. So I would think of the word Christmas with a great deal of interest, because the Indian format, of course, I'm sure it has many names in many regions. In Bangla and also in Hindi, you know what we call Christmas? Borodin, actually. Jishutshob is a kind of sort of
Krishtutshab.
extended, or even Krishtutshab. But Borodin. And when I was young, I used to always think that, like Good Friday, which sort of alternates in people's minds between the notion of God Friday and Good Friday, and has a kind of religious import. I was wondering whether Borodin referred to the goodness of the day because of the goodness of the person it's celebrated. Much later, I've learned that one of the possible meanings is that it was a day celebrated by the Bara Sahibs,
Bara Sahibs,
and
that's
therefore
right.
Bara
Bara
Din.
Bara.
So that I found quite interesting. The other term that is not here, but I think it's again an interesting word, because we are right in the middle of that build up to Christmas. So it's Advent, and again, when we were young, one of the new traditions that I learnt about must have been when I was in my teens, because before that, again, we've had Christmas and Christmas celebrations with the caroling, which I'm sure we'll talk about, the cakes and the nativity performances, all that we knew. I think I was introduced to the notion of Advent a little later, and the Advent wreath, but it's it's a very beautiful tradition where there are these 4 candles to be lit on the 4 Sundays preceding Christmas, leading up to Christmas, and Again, there are many traditions about this, but I also learned that these candles have certain qualities associated with them. So the four that I seem to remember, faith is one, hope is one, peace is one, and love is one. And there are also separate colors associated with the candles, pink and purple. I remember. I can't remember whether there were others.
And white.
Possible. There was a fifth candle which would be lit after the four preparatory Sundays had the four candles lit. And I thought this is interesting because, in a way, though a Christian sort of celebration, this is quite similar to what we in Bangla have
For Durga Puja.
for, yes, it's a kind of preparation.
From Mahalaya, that's right.
Agumoni.
Yeah.
And maybe we can take this concept a little further. There are many other ways in which, let's say, originally foreign celebration becomes, as it were, Indianized. So Advent's a lovely kind of preparation time for all Christians. And of course, the four qualities, faith, hope, love, and peace, are things that you would associate with practically any religion.
Exactly. Why
So
does it have
it's
to be
a kind
only
of
Christmas?
universalizing of a particular tradition, let's say.
Okay, so my next question would be about carols, but there is this beautiful one that, in fact, you shared with me.
Bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, too young and old, big and the bold, ding dong, ding dong, that is their song, with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, holy phone, raising the sound, oh, holidays, all their tones, gaily they ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Day, merry, merry, merry Christmas. Day, merry, merry, merry Christmas. Tune only send dawn without end. Day, joyful dawn to every home. Hark all the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away. Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, big and the bold. Ding dong, ding dong, that is their song. With joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, holy one, raising the sound. Oh, holidays, all their tones, gaily they ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Tune only send dawn without end. Day, joyful dawn to every home. Hark all the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away.
So carols.
Yeah, so wasn't that just
Wasn't that
wonderful?
beautiful? Exactly.
The thing about carols is, of course, the way we've been listening to this particular carol and a number of other European carols, they have a kind of musical brilliance that our Indian music can't reproduce, for the simple reason, I think, that harmonies are a very important part of Western music.
Yeah.
We have our own way, and maybe if there's time, we'll try and take a look at how the Indian versions, or at least the Bangla versions that I know of Christmas songs, have found their own way to create some kind of impression or create a new kind of music. But I just don't see how we can take in the notions of harmony, and this is
Brilliant.
so magical.
Absolutely brilliant.
But as for the carols themselves, I was doing a little bit of looking up, and what I found is there are a number of ways in which the Christmas carols have come in. One, of course, is apparently even before Christmas, there was this idea of midwinter singing in European countries as a way of warming oneself up in that cold. And the moment I read about that, it occurred to me that at least one Christmas carol I have known for a long time, about Good King Wenceslas.
Yeah.
It's a carol that apparently seems to have nothing to do with Christmas, except that right at the end they kind of add
Push
that
it in.
line, Christmasmen rejoice and do good to people like Good King Wenceslas did. But it could talk about the pre-Christmas situation, and a number of these Christmas carols that we sing do that. sometimes I think in the European canon of songs, they incorporate this notion. There is a lovely carol called In the Bleak Midwinter, which talks about a very cold midwinter setting, but then puts in the Christ figure. And at the end, what can I give him, poor as I am? So that is one. These carols, I believe, the word carol probably came in to the European consciousness from the Middle Ages, where a carol was not necessarily related to Christmas, but it was a kind of dance that people did to music. And later, the song carol was, the word was used to designate the song that accompanied this kind of dance. But the Christmas carols we are familiar with, at least I, one part of it would be the ones that are sung in church. And there is this obvious difference between what we call the Christmas hymns, which are perhaps more classically, more seriously sort of structured and arranged and sung, and the what we call the carols, which seem to have a lot more folk element in them. And of course, they used to be sung on the streets by groups of people.
Children and all going from house to house.
And then I have this wonderful memory when I think we used to stay in Barakpur at the time, and my cousins visited us, and the 4 or 5 of them were singing, and we were awoken in the middle of the night by this group of people singing. We went out, and it was family. It was wonderful. So you would listen to them, you would pay them, you would give them food, and some of the carols also incorporate all that, what bring us a figgy pudding and all of that in.
Okay.
So this was how the carols came over, and
So it would be different from a hymn because of its religious element, the religiosity of it?
I'm not an expert in this field, but I would imagine a hymn is something that you can sing around the year for any number of religious sort of occasions. And it would probably have been created maybe in the church for singing in the church. It's quite possible carols did not originate that way, but then because of their religious
like
content,
you said, folk music kind of thing,
were brought into the churches, and now we sing them all the time.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
We cannot discuss Christmas and not talk about Christmas Carol. I mean, that's something all children have read, and
Yeah, okay.
all
the
of
book,
us know
the
about
Christmas Carol,
the book, the Christmas Carol.
Moving.
So about Scrooge and how he changes and all of that. So, what do you think a child after reading or a youth after reading Christmas Carol, what is it that he or she takes back?
Okay. Great question, because I think when we were children, don't know about you, when what I first thought about when I read the story of Scrooge really did not have to do with what you might say is the theme. We would think of how funny, how ridiculous Scrooge was. And then, of course, I remember my first encounter was probably in a book which talked about the Cratchit's Christmas.
Cratchit's Christmas,
right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
more about how
in a reader,
yes, Bob Cratchit and his family celebrated Christmas, and of course there was the old Dickensian, sentiment awash all over, and he's a master at all of that creating. But then, since you asked this question, I would say that basically what the theme of Christmas would be comes out of that one particular occasion that we read about, but then eventually that is also what can seem to be the theme of the book, and in fact extended the theme of Christmas. Basically, here is this this miserly, bad-tempered, person who only thinks of himself. In the course of the story, he learns to open up, think beyond himself, give, be generous, and I think all of that could be part of the Christmas message, isn't it? open up, meet the world, love the world, bring people together. Don't always think about yourself. And yes, that would be associated with gift giving, with sharing the music, everything, bringing family together, bringing friends together. I would imagine that is what the theme would be.
In my research, when I went through the themes, I found generosity, which we just discussed.
Yeah.
I also found regret, and I think that the song, which is Ekdin Jara Mere Chilo, Tagore,
Yes.
of course. But when I was discussing this with you, you said it was written for Christmas, but it is not very Christmassy.
Yeah, I mean, the person at the center is obviously Christ. But then there are these two aspects. Christmas is one side and Good Friday and Easter is the other, in terms of what the message of Christ is. And from what I remember of the poem, it seems to incorporate both these. The occasion was definitely Christmas that Rabindranath wrote this poem. So I would imagine maybe another work by Rabindranath. And in fact, in this context, I can think of a couple of other literary works. The Journey of the Magi, Eliot's. Okay,
Absolutely.
Where people respond to the Christmas event,
Spirit.
but in their own ways. Talking about Ekdin Jara Mere Chilo Tare, I think The Child, another Rabindranath sort of composition, would have a little more to do with the notion of Christ as a child at Christmas. Though, of course, it was not apparently written only for...
there was Gandhiji too. Yes, the man of faith.
There was also
That's right.
Gandhiji in mind. But this notion that our existence may be futile and meaningless unless there is somebody to show us meaning, and this idea that a child typically is he or the child it is that enables us to find new meaning in life, would tie up well with the Christmas narrative.
Tagore being Tagore, child also covers a whole range of mass behavior.
Of course.
How they follow, how they kill, how they are disillusioned, and all of that, and how they all kind of, in the end, they all begin to believe that it is the child who's going to show them the way.
So I'm in fact reminded of a presentation, dance
by
presentation.
Tanushree Shankar.
Yes,
it's very, very beautiful.
Very
yes,
beautifully captures this journey from darkness to light. And yes, these are ways in which people around us, creative minds around us, make us freshly aware of the import of these situations. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now the next question is about food.
I was wondering whether you'd get down to that, because when you mentioned a lot of things right at the beginning, I could see the decorations, I could see the color.
Yes.
Couldn't see much, in fact, couldn't see any food. So I hope there'll be some. If we only talk about it, that's one way of bringing food in.
Yes. So what is typically your memories, for instance, for a Christmas lunch or a Christmas Eve dinner or whatever?
So I'll share this very interesting snippet with you. Again, when you told us that we'd be taking a look at aspects of Christmas, I just came across, I think you shared a link with me also, random link which talks about food items, and I was a little very interested, but also a little intrigued to notice that a lot of the items supposedly associated with Christmas I didn't know about as being Christmassy, and I wonder whether anybody here, we can take in your views at the end of the discussion, whether you would.
Completely.
Broccoli apparently has Christmas significance. Did you know that?
No,
So,
certainly not. I just know that it's full of antioxidants and it's very good for your health.
Everything good reminds us of Christmas, which is everything good. I don't know. So that is what sweet potatoes. I also remember, I think, reading about. But I, in all these years that I've celebrated Christmas, that is another part that has been hidden from me. I'd be very happy to let it, come into part of my food experience anytime. But of course, apart from that, I also read about the turkey. That is something that I thought in passing that I would comment on. You spoke about the myth and the mystery right at the beginning. I think this, at least as far as turkey is concerned, it's both a myth about turkey being
Fattened.
being something that we enjoy having at Christmas. Believe me, I really don't know, but it's possible because we are not. I haven't celebrated a European or an American Christmas with turkey, but the turkey I've had here doesn't really make me particularly happy. It's a little difficult to negotiate, and to me, it seemed a mystery as to how it could take the central place of at the Christmas table.
Correct.
But I'm sure some of us have had happy memories. I'd be happy to listen to that. But yes, the turkey is there, and we keep reading about things like the Christmas pudding. When I was young, I didn't used to have any Christmas pudding, but of course there was always cake. There was also a little bit of the Christmas spirit that I remember. In Barakpur, we would celebrate Christmas with a lot of these officers, and I remember one particular officer inviting us over, our family over, and that's the first time my father said I could imbibe a bit of the Christmas spirit. And now, of course, I'd like to have that Christmas spirit in my cake. So all these are there. What I find interesting from a local point of view is how we've taken the European food items and in some cases Indianized it, because for years together I never had turkey, but we always had some kind of mangsho and prepared in very Indian Bengali manner for Christmas. It wouldn't be Christmas without that. And of course the cake.
Which is marinated a month ago, all the
shells.
So all of that, I mean, it's a fairly recent sort of revelation for me. But yes, we would have our eggs and flour and butter and fruits brought in and not sort of ceremonially marinated, but warmed and mixed and got ready. And then a few days before Christmas, we'd have to wake up early in the morning and take them to a local baker. And we still have this. There are some areas here. I think Big Bagan is one area. Taltol, I remember another area. Maybe there. So people still go in there, and that I think is such a fantastic.
Beautiful.
That is something that you would have. A pan sort of Indian kind of celebration of this very non-Indian, originally non-Indian festival.
Yeah.
And I just completely love that.
Yeah.
Also in this connection, the number of people who go to Park Street to eat and celebrate Christmas. I'm not sure about the statistics, but I think there are more people celebrating Christmas on Park Street than there are Christians in Kolkata for sure, maybe in India.
Yes,
I know. Quite right.
And I think that's something wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. Ajay, you talked about the spirit of things, so please do tell us about eggnog.
Okay. Surprisingly, eggnog is something that I've only read about.
Yeah?
I've not
Never
really had it. I can't remember. Definitely not at Christmas. Maybe a friend of mine might have talked to me about it, but I can't remember ever having it. Have you had some?
No. My knowledge is restricted to movies, Hallmark, Christmas movies,
Okay.
Netflix.
But there have been instances of all kinds of wines made of all kinds of fruit, and they're all brilliant.
Must be.
But is there not some kind of a myth, perhaps, of this Christmas pudding having some blood in it?
The Christmas pudding, not that I know. But there's not a lot that I do know. But maybe if you remember reading about it, ma'am, you could tell us.
Not that I know, but they said the Christmas pudding does have some raw blood in it.
No, see, the Christmas idea, as far as I know, was from the shepherds community. Okay, what you said was pre-Christmas warm weather coming or cold weather coming, warm weather going on. So the shepherd community had to pen the sheep. Yes, basically England, not Europe. Europe celebrates Christmas much later.
12th of January.
Never, ever
On the
Christmas Day.
25th of December.
So this is English. So the shepherd community had to pen them, right? So they were on the field for a very long time, weeks on end. So that there would be weak sheep, dead sheep, whatever. So they'd kill the sheep and never turkey, a sheep or a pig, if it's possible, was the meat. And yes, blood, because they knew about the Christian thing about blood and lamb. So they would incorporate the blood of a dead sheep into their food and offer it.
Yeah, I know
Okay.
there was something about that.
Okay. Since we are living in a world which only understands money, there is this huge commercial angle to Christmas as well. I mean, in my experience, when I was visiting my daughter, every shop had everything that could possibly have, some kind of candy cane or a Christmas tree or something to do with. So, tin boxes, chocolate wrappers, glasses. In fact, Starbucks right now has special paper glasses that all Christmas motif,
Okay.
green and red. So there is this huge way of making money, I would say. Not that I'm criticizing that, of course not. People are in business, they have to survive, they have to make money, which is all very fine. But it's very interesting. For instance, the cards, the things that are bought and sold during Christmas. So there's,
Yeah.
I've in my research, I found this is just US, 3 billion Christmas cards are sent in the US each year. I don't know,
Okay.
after WhatsApp, what's happened. Maybe
Right.
it's changed.
Right, it
But
would
yes.
be definitely
Chris-
many more than 3 million WhatsApp,
WhatsApp
cards
messages,
being
yes.
exchanged.
Christmas trees. And I believe those trees take about 15 years to grow.
Yeah.
So those people who actually bring in real trees, of course, there are the other not real trees, which a lot of people also use. So I just a holiday purchases. No, this is very US. White Christmas by Irving Berlin is one of the best-selling single record of all time.
Yeah.
So there is this, along with this religious festival,
Yeah.
there is also a very strong business angle. And I was thinking of Durga Puja too.
This is exactly what crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely parallel.
Recently,
Yeah.
at one of my friends, he visited 3 exhibitions, very popular ones, on the same day, and found Ma Durga everywhere.
Okay.
As a pendant, in the sari, in a bag, in a ceramic cup, and everywhere. So we too have learned. I don't know whether we've learned to make money, but we certainly have kind of moved out, and the concept of Durga Puja is also becoming a money making thing. And also, if you think about the stalls that every big pandal has, so many people probably make money for the whole year during these 10 days of now it used to be 4 days, then 5 days, and now it's become 10 days of Durga Puja. So they probably make their whole year's income at this point of time.
Yeah.
So I find a remarkable similarity between the East and the West, and one puja and the other celebration. And yes,
Quite possible that the idea of one has rubbed off on the other,
On the
but
other,
yes, so
right.
'tis the season to be jolly has now changed into what? 'Tis the season to make lolly.
yeah,
True.
possibly.
But
Quite
it's all a good thing if that increases cheer. It would in the people who are making the money, and it's also a very good way to make a living. Why not?
Why not?
The
Why not?
interesting
Yes.
thing that I find, you talked about stalls, and I have a friend, a colleague, in fact, who's written this extremely interesting article about how Christmas is or used to be celebrated, perhaps even is celebrated in the Kaurapukur area. And one of the ways in which it is celebrated is that they have this Christmas Mela, Borodin Mela,
Oh,
and a huge number of stalls selling a large number of
products.
not necessarily Christmas related products, but that too.
Yeah.
So, yes, this is a very, very interesting way of taking the occasion beyond the people who would originally and only be celebrating it, which is always a good thing.
Okay, now the next one is perhaps treading on a little difficult grounds. The misconceptions. I mean, when I was reading up a lot of stuff for this, I read that there is no guarantee that 25th December is Christ's birthday.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, that date, as far as I can remember, was possibly set down by the Emperor Constantine, and so
For a convenient reason?
one of the reasons that I read about is, well, at that time with the Roman Empire turning, or the Roman Emperor turning
Meridian.
Christian, it would be a way of putting a Christian stamp on a time of the year which originally was for pagan festivals.
Okay.
So,
So this is one way of establishing that.
yes, so you sort of replace this with a Christian sort of event. So this is one one possible explanation. I know this could be true because the same thing happens at the other end of the Christ story spectrum, Easter, which is about Christ's death and resurrection. That word Easter comes from a word which was the name of a pre-Christian goddess. I think Eastru.
Oh,
Right.
Istra or something like that.
So,
Female goddess.
yes, I mean, that I could have the name wrong, but a pre-Christian pagan goddess. So, the time of the year would also be that, spring. And how beautifully it ties up with spring, as in, new life, regeneration.
regeneration.
And you have. So, this is not the time, of course, to talk about Good Friday or Easter, but if at that end that could have happened, it's equally
Quite
possible.
possible.
And yes, you would say something?
Ishtar, I think. It's
Yes,
a
I think
pagan
that
goddess.
is a very
It's
good
the
point. Yeah.
meridian, the Constantinople was the prime meridian at that time. So time started there.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Again-
I missed that.
So again, this would be there would be a similarity between our Akal Budhun, because Durga Puja is not supposed to be an autumnal thing. It's supposed to be Bashanti Puja, which is
April. It's
which
in
is
spring.
Okay.
which is not when we are celebrating Durga Puja.
Yeah.
So again,
So
there
yes,
is a
another way in which
Yeah.
there is this
There is a
tie-up. Yes,
similarity.
Can I put in a point here?
sure.
I also feel it this way, that it can be that it's a winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, and the day increases
Yes.
from that point time
Yeah.
onwards. So one of the reasons I think it is also called Borodin is because the daylight starts
Starts, yes.
improving.
Receding.
Oh, that's
Southern hemisphere is the
quite
opposite.
possible.
The days are longer.
Yes.
That is
So that
possible.
may be one point. Also, maybe because it's winter and it's a new birth after that, because the sun is coming up. And
Right.
if you go up in the north, I mean, the sun is now coming up the horizon because it had been not
Because
visible
of the
at
southern
all
hemisphere.
in the Arctic region. And also, if I can connect it a little bit, it also starts when the Santa Claus comes down from there. So in the
Yeah.
Arctic, there is no light, and as 25th crosses, 25th December is crossed, the sun comes up on the horizon, and the day starts growing longer and bigger. So maybe one of the reasons why we call it
Or is Borodin.
that significance,
Yeah.
that we can put it in there, and also because it's a new birth in a way. So connecting a birth of a day to the birth of a savior.
True.
He was considered a savior at
Savior,
that point of time,
correct.
historically put. So maybe there is a
The
connection.
Eastern Orthodox Church actually, we call it the 12th night. It's on the
Yes.
6th of January.
6th of January. is
Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah, but
That's when you take your
that
Christmas decorations
Actually
off.
say, I think that the 7th of January is actually considered historically considered the birth of
The
Jesus.
birth of Christ.
at any rate, it's the time when they say it was the revelation of the child Christ to the larger world, because the Magi, we celebrate at Christmas time. That's when we show the three kings coming in and we sing We Three Kings. Apparently, it wasn't at the Christmas time, but it was a considerable while later. In fact, there is also a myth about there being four Magi, and one of them lost his way, and apparently he comes and meets Christ when Christ is being crucified 30 years
Oh my God.
or 33 years later.
Oh, and what was
Right.
the gift that he was carrying?
I really don't know. In fact, I can't even remember what his name was, but there were four Magi in one of the traditions that I've read about. So, but since you talked about the 6th of January, that is some communities celebrate it as Epiphany, which is the revelation
Revelation.
of Christ to the larger world, and it was definitely not 25th December. But I don't think it was actually only 12 days apart either.
Correct. Since we've already moved into the question answer zone, if anybody else has a question or anything else that you would want to talk about.
Yeah, I'd prefer if it's an observation, because then I don't have to answer it.
This is to Kushal. Did Christ ever come to India? Did he live here? Did he preach in any particular area? Because I believe it's Kashmir. I've been there. There are several books on it. And I've been there, and they believe that he lived there. He stayed in Kashmir. So would you throw more light on it?
Okay, so to answer your question briefly and truthfully, I don't know. However, I can confidently state that that part of the Christ narrative wouldn't have to do with the Christmas story. So maybe if Shampadi does the resurrection story sometime, we can delve into that. But yes, I'm aware that there are a number of accounts that claim that he did.
The 6th of December, we are meeting here today. Does it have a special significance for our story and the recording? Because in Europe, especially in the Netherlands, what they call the Low Countries, 6th of December is Saint Nicholas Day. And Saint Nicholas was the black boy in Santa Claus's group of people who went carrying the bag of gifts. So in Europe, for some reason, that little boy is called Saint Nicholas, and he's much regarded by children. So in shops and stores, the black boy carrying a load of gifts is there on all the fronts of shops. And people go into the shops on the 6th just to buy gifts for the children, for their family.
For children.
Yeah.
Woodpecker has a black body and a red bonnet. That's because Saint Nicholas is a black child with a red cap, and he blessed the bird because he couldn't eat. That's why he pecks. He can't swallow. So he blessed the bird so that khete pacche na, but you can peck.
How interesting is that?
This is totally Danish. Danish, as you said,
Scandinavian, the
low countries, basically. I got it in Denmark, but it can be anywhere.
And this is a story that I read regarding the same thing that you said, that St. Nicholas had gone to, he was preaching and he was very tired. So he had gone to a lady's house and asked her for something, anything to eat. And she was making dough, baking cakes. So she said okay, and she got a little bit of dough and made a cake. Then she thought that it was big. Too big to give away. So she made a smaller one. Even then she thought that it was big enough. So a still smaller one, and that also she could not give. So ultimately St. Nicholas became very angry, and he actually cursed her that since you could not give a little food to a person who had come to your door and you had so much, so you would be turned to a woodpecker, and you have to find your food. Peck and find your food.
And that's why
she went up the chimney, right? Yeah, she went up the chimney.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why she became black. But he said that the bonnet would remain, and she was wearing a red bonnet perhaps. So that part would remain, the color would not change, but her body became black as she went up. So it's just an addition to the same story.
Okay, so both these stories are, I think, fascinating examples of how folklore can add to such a lovely, a rich body of traditions or myths or legends, whatever you call them. About 6th of December, I can just say this is what serendipity, and that we just happened to meet today. Yes, I was aware of Saint Nicholas, not in as great detail as I've heard from so many of you, but I have a couple of interesting observations to make. One of which is apparently the name Santa Claus itself is a
From
corruption
Saint
of Saint
Nicholas.
Nicholas.
Yeah.
Though in the tradition you referred to, he's part of Santa's entourage, but apparently Santa Claus is a corruption of that name. The other thing is, any idea what Santa Claus is referred to in regional Indian languages? Once again, I only know what we call him in our Bangla churches, but maybe some of you could give us some other names. Any idea?
No, Mother, 25th December at the Lake Club, you have a children's party in the morning.
Okay.
And at noon, one of the members from the executive committee dresses like Santa Claus, makes himself doubly fat, brings a load of gifts in a carry bag, and he comes in. And the children all say, Santa Claus, Santa Claus.
Also, that would be such a wonderful Indianized version of the name, Shanta. Shanta Babu. Well, as I remember, again, when we were young, Santa Claus wasn't a very popular name, but we would say Father Christmas. Father Christmas. That is one. And when you talk about the dark person, in most of our Indian communities, the Santa Claus would be a darkish person, and yes, suitably padded up, pillowed up to give the impression of weight, and he would go ho ho ho, yes, for certain. A very interesting story with the Father Christmas or Santa Claus myth or tradition. I have a friend whose daughter would be given this Santa Claus story, and I remember for a number of years I had to go ho 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 into the phone telling her to be good and asking her what she wanted for Christmas so that the parents could get her that and keep alive her belief in Santa Claus. I know it carried on for a couple of years. I'm not sure how it ended, but at some point she must have guessed. This can't
Children
be
for a long
the
time
goods.
actually wait in the morning to open their stocking item. We haven't mentioned stocking.
That's right.
Yes,
That's
I wanted
again.
to ask.
I wonder if anybody could shed light on that. I know I know there are Christmas stockings. I remember being very sad because I never had a stocking, only socks, and I put them out. But a sock could hold only so much, not as much as a stocking.
Yeah, I think Nandini wants to ask about the stockings.
No, I just wanted to know about the stockings, but I think I may have deduced the answer that in the Western countries where it was that much colder, they wore heavier socks. So, they had longer socks. So, I suppose they used their socks actually, which were
But
the
why
stockings.
not a bag? Why not something else? I mean,
I
why
know.
is it
this?
something-
This I don't know. Why not a
Yeah.
bag?
I mean,
No.
I can understand
Each
that.
child got a gift in the stocking.
That's right.
Perhaps
Yeah.
perhaps I don't know, because they went to bed with socks in those countries.
Yes, could be.
It was very cool. Can
It's,
you
it's
imagine?
cold. Yeah.
And there was no
Yes.
heating as such.
No,
Not
no,
definitely
no,
not in
no.
the bedrooms. So it would be going to bed. We went to bed with socks too.
Yeah, correct. Maybe that's the reason.
That's the reason.
And when we were talking about the Christmas pudding being having
Egg,
some
blood.
in it, I think you mentioned a part of England, the sheep. Definitely also, I think in Scotland.
The haggis.
Haggis.
It is in
Yeah.
Scotland.
Of
Yes.
course. Haggis, yeah.
Apart from
Buns.
that, they have blood
Yeah.
pudding.
Yeah, but
something
you
like
open the
that.
haggis
And
and
that's
you
yes.
can't eat it.
Buns,
I mean, I
buns
put it
night.
in.
Yeah,
They serve
buns.
so
Yeah.
much love. The haggis, and I looked at it, it's all the offal of the sheep.
Yes.
And it's not cooked so much, it's rare.
Yes,
rare meat.
rare.
So when they offered it, I just said, they said haggis, I didn't even know what it was. When they offered it on my plate and I took the knife, it was my gosh. I didn't know how I could
It's a
turn it
culture
off.
shock.
Turn it off and say I'm sorry, Auntie.
No, this is an experience of Christmas in a way that, it came out of nowhere. And I don't know whether anybody would experience it hence. And that's why it's very special. And that was that we were in Paris. And we were going around Notre Dame, not actually on Christmas Day, and not getting enough like courage to go in. And then they called us in. Please come in, please come in. It was so cold and windy that we entered. And they actually took us, made us sit down, and we experienced the Mass. It was wonderful. It was beyond our,
Yes.
what we had thought about and what we thought we would do that day. So the church inside was beautifully decorated. There were big stars, all lit up, and the nativity scene was laid out. So then we could go around and collect also mementos. So it was a wonderful experience, basically. And outside, children were singing carols. So it was only that, I suppose, that year or the next year, I think that year only. Or the next year, actually, 18, I think, Notre Dame was burned down.
I got you that coin, remember?
Beyond.
Coin for elderly special mass. That was during Christmas.
Yeah, we too got some.
Such a beautiful.
Yeah, it
picture.
was a beautiful
Those-
experience.
those-
I cherish it because firstly, we didn't intend to go in and experience it. It happened as if somebody called us in, as if the spirit of Christmas was calling us in to share it and to experience it.
When we were
Very
young, going
warm,
into the
very, very
midnight
warm.
mass
Exactly.
on Christmas
Yeah,
Eve
yeah, yeah.
was
Yes.
we
Yeah,
went.
we did.
And
Even I
it
went
was-
to the St. Paul's
Cathedral.
Everybody
Yeah.
Notre Dame was special and special because next year it was
And
burnt down.
this is one of my childhood experiences, and something that I really cherish. And the solemnity of the whole thing, the way in which everybody respects what they are doing there, it was beautiful. Just what a mass should be. And I'm so glad that I was exposed to it from the time that I was so. And
I
compared
felt
to Indian temples, and I think a couple of months ago, before Christmas, my father had taken me to Kalighat, and I think I was completely frazzled by the crowd, the behavior, everything seemed so wrong. And after that, this was so
It's
beautiful.
wrong, na the population এখানে অনেক বেশি।
Population
It's
natural
a percentage to that.
No, I think it's also your mentality.
You know,
and the way you
অনেক
handle
মন্দির
people.
আছে very quiet too, where the
Yeah.
population is
Like
very
Belur
calm.
Mott. It's such a quiet, lovely place to be in. Yeah, correct.
Yes, but okay. I need to be.
তোমার বাড়ির মন্দিরটা কি ঠান্ডা আছে? তোমার বাড়ির
Bari?
না তোমাদের বাড়ির সামনে যে মন্দিরটা
Oh,
আছে।
you mean Dhaka?
Dhaka.
That of course, yes. It's a
কিরকম
very
quiet,
beautiful one.
peaceful, very ভদ্র জায়গা, সেখানে কিচ্ছু হয় না।
I grew up in Kolkata.
I think Nandini is asking that question.
No, I also want to share an experience that yes, we have been regular with that mass at St. Paul's, but once both of us we went to the midnight mass at the Greek Orthodox Church. In
Kalighat.
colleges, and it was so beautiful. It was entirely different. It was in Bangla, and it was entirely different. And if you do have an opportunity, you should go.
We went
And
one
it
night,
was
yes.
so similar to many of our puja rituals. They have this Bangladesh jeta chamor bole, and they come and with the ghanta, and it's unique. It's unique. And I really enjoyed it just as much.
I'm sure.
Where is this?
Greek
Greek
Orthodox
Orthodox.
It's on Kalighat.
Tram depot next to the tram depot.
ওটা খুব সুন্দর।
Shantiniketan Christmas I have also
খুব
experienced.
সুন্দর।
It is entirely different. It is a Brahmo style
Brahmo style.
Christmas Upashana, and they sing all the songs related to
To
Christ. So that is beautiful. But I would really recommend visiting the Greek Orthodox Church. And inside the church, it's a
Thank you.
gorgeous church.
So, in conclusion, I think we cannot give up on tradition because that's what keeps us alive, that's what keeps us going. And it doesn't matter what religious faith we belong to. We have to learn to be selfless. we have to respect one another, and we cannot give up hope about magic, because magic happens. Despite everything that goes around us, there is um, so much tumultuous decisions being taken. There is divisive politics. There is so much going on around us. But we still have to believe that all will be well, that the magic, that is the spirit of Christmas, will be back, and it will take us along the way we want. Let us draw the evening to a close with a carol, which is extremely famous in Silent Night. And the background music that you're going to hear has been recorded and sent to me by Nandini. She played it on the piano herself, and I cannot even begin to tell you how honored I feel about this. So we all bring the evening to a close with this beautiful song, timeless in its appeal, and forever giving us hope that there is a beautiful world ahead of us. Holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round your virgin mother and child, holy infant so tender and mild, sleep with heavenly peace, sleep with heavenly peace.